Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm checking out the Realacc Orange85. This is a brushless micro. It's definitely the year of the brushless micro quad. So it has got a 85mm carbon fiber frame. One thing I don't like about it straight away, let's start off with the negatives, why not? The frame is really thin, can you see that? And it flexes quite a bit. I think it's just 1mm carbon there. And then we have got this 3D printed, rather heavy prop protector, I guess with the idea that you can fly this one indoors. The only thing is though, it is so heavy. I weighed it and this is 27 grams just on its own. And when we're talking about brushless micros, every gram is important. So this quadcopter weighs 94 grams with this protector on, which is quite heavy. And then if you take it off, it is about 67 grams. So I think that the majority of people are going to be flying this outside, especially as it's becoming summer in the northern hemisphere. So I'm going to be taking this off. So the way that this works here is we've got all 4 screws going into the motor, but only 2 of them are connected to this protector here. So you're going to want to take these 2 screws out here and then leave these 2 here, but don't screw these back in because these screws are going to be longer and they're going to touch the back of the motor if you screw those in. So we're only going to be using 2 of these screws into the motor, so you might want to use some thread lock there. Anyway, let's talk about some of the other specs about this model. So it doesn't have an on-screen display, so that might completely lose your interest straight away. It does have a voltage buzzer though, which is connected to the VBAT, and we also have got 2 LEDs there which is connected to the DIN as well, so we can use this as a lost model alarm and also tell us when our battery is about to run out. So that might not be so bad that it doesn't have an on-screen display, because it's nice to have an on-screen display, but they don't half suck up a lot of juice and flight time as well. So the motors here, they are 1106 6000 kV motors. They don't seem to be branded at all. And the propellers are these 5-blade propellers, which I really like. They are quite strong as well. They can go in a few crashes, those. And then we have got an all-in-one ESC board. It is 10 amp and it is flashed with BL Heli S. And then that is linked up to the flight controller here, so it's an F3 flight controller. The only thing I would say about this is the USB is quite difficult to get to, so I've got a little stripped down USB connector there and that lets me access it easy, but I guess at a push you could remove this blade here to get to that easier. But yeah, I would always suggest when messing around with these micros, get some thin USB cables and then you should be fine. Now my model that has turned up is the S-Bus version. We've got an S-Bus receiver there and it's really difficult to get to the bind button. The bind button is just down this little tiny hole here, and I used a smaller screwdriver than this to press the bind button and then plug the battery in, and then I bound it to my Tyrannus. But before we talk any more about that, check out this hoop here. I much prefer this hoop than on the Chaser 88. That one was huge and affected the balance of the model. This one, much more low profile, and guess what? It works. I've crashed this a lot. And that is there, of course, because we have a cloverleaf antenna on top of this camera, and it's a nice camera indeed. It is a 200 milliwatt camera, but you can switch it to 0 power. So we have a button on the top there, and a very long press then gives you a line across this little LED here, which is actually covered up by this little 3D printed thing here for the buzzer. But yeah, if you long press this button here, then you can change the power between 0 and 200 milliwatt, and then like a 2-second press lets you go through the different bands, and then a short press will take you through the different channels. It's a 40 channel VTX, and yeah, it's really nice, and the camera's at a little bit of an angle as well, and the quality of the camera is really nice as well. So of course we have got the flight controller here in a sort of diamond configuration, so you're going to have to make sure that you take note of the board alignment in Betaflight. It comes flashed with Betaflight, which is really nice. And then of course under here you'll notice that we have a band for the battery, but then we have an XT30. I think this is a good move because I've been getting a lot of brownouts with these models lately, and I think it's just that we can't get enough current down the JST connectors there and things are browning out. We've got XT30 on here, and guess what? It comes with a 3-cell battery. So this model with its ducts taken off is going to be very similar to my Pico X, I think. I mean, the design is very similar to the Pico X and the Chaser 88, but you know, we've seen so many of these models now, it's hard to say, oh, this is a copy of that, that's a copy of that. You know, it's just a new model to me, right? So interestingly, they're calling it the Realacc, but we have an Eachine branded battery, so I think literally they just ran out of names and called this one the Realacc, but actually it's probably just another Eachine model. So 450 milliamp 3-cell battery there, and it is only 25C, but don't worry about that, it's fine. I didn't get any brownouts with this. Also, we're powering less stuff up because there's no on-screen display on this model. So what else do you get with it? You get given a B3 charger, and that will charge off the balance port there, which is good because my hobby charger doesn't have any XT60 connectors. I need to make some up because this is the future of these micros, definitely. And we get a spare set of props, which is nice because I really like these props. I can use them on my other models as well. Of course, I'm going to need a way to fly it, so I'm using my Tyrannus. And I've set up a model so that I've got it to arm on this 2-position switch here, and then I've got my lost model alarm on that one, and then I've got my modes on that one. So yeah, I think it's set up for 7 channels, and like I say, you need to go into D8 mode on the Tyrannus and then press bind, and then it's really tricky, this, especially with its positioning. I guess you could take this top off to access that bind button easier, but yeah, I just managed it. I don't like this method because, you know, you can sometimes get a voltage spike when doing that. But yeah, some of these models, the receiver actually powers up without the battery, so if that is the case, then the best thing to do, I find, is stick your USB cable in here, put your screwdriver on the button or whatever, have your Tyrannus already bleeping away in the background, and then just plug it into the computer. I find that much easier, but yeah, not all of these models have the receiver power up when it's plugged into Betaflight. You'll have to plug the battery in, so we'll check that out in Betaflight with this. And of course, I'm going to need to find a way to FPV with it as well. So I'm going to be using my Fat Shark Dominator HD3s with the Invader patch antenna, which is loose. That needs tightening up. I need to do that at some point. And then I'm sticking with this Triumph antenna at the moment, quite like that. And we have a diversity receiver in there as well. And sometimes I like to use an on-way antenna as well. I can't tell the difference between either two of them. One problem with this model, no instructions whatsoever. So that's why I'm going to go through the Betaflight setup. I have changed a couple of things, and you are welcome to copy them. But I am going to do a flight with this, with these propeller protectors on, but I think it's going to be really sluggish, so I'll then do a flight with them off. So here we are in the Betaflight configurator. You get this from the Chrome App Store. Now I'm not going to upgrade the firmware, but I will show you the things that you need to remember, write down, etc. if you do want to do that, but I want to see how it flies out of the box pretty much with just a couple of settings changed. So you can see it says COM12 at the top here, and I've got my really thin USB connector connected to the quadcopter, and that's going into the computer. So I didn't find that I needed to calibrate the accelerometer out of the box at all, but you can do that if you like, or if you're having any drift issues. So I'm going to enable expert mode here. Let's go into the ports. So we have got UART2 turned on there. That is probably for the VBAT telemetry to go to the buzzer. And then we've got a USB VCP for the USB. Don't ever turn that off, otherwise you'll have to put it into bootloader mode to get it back. And then we have got the serial RX for the receiver on the UART3. So if I go into configuration here, so board alignment is set at 45 degrees to have that diamond shape. Now it's actually set at D-Shot 150, but it does support 600, so let's do that. I've got motor stop turned off there. And then if I just scroll down, so I've got serial based receiver for S-Bus and S-Bus down here. Now it was set up like that out of the box, so I didn't have to change anything there. And if we come down here, the VBAC is enabled, but only when you plug the battery in. So I've changed the warning voltage there, because otherwise it goes off too soon. So I've set the warning voltage at 3.1 and then your second warning at 2.9, and at that point it will hit the deck. So yeah, should give you a little bit of time to land, hopefully. Coming down here, then everything else is stock. I don't know why servo tilt is enabled. There's no tilting camera on this model. They're just stock settings that they haven't changed. We've got 2K and 8K up here for the F3 board as well. I'm going to leave that alone. And yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. I need to save and reboot. You need to do that when you change a setting there. Is it going to connect back, or I have to manually connect? Never sure which one it's going to do. And now, there we go. Take some time. That does. Right, so then failsafe, right? So set to drop. We don't really need to go through this anymore. We'll check that it works, of course, taking the props off. PID tuning, so this is stock Betaflight tune, and with the prop protectors on, it flies very well. With the prop protectors off, there's a little bit too much P, so I would recommend that you go and copy my settings that I have done for the likes of the AR Fun, because that one flew very nicely. And yeah, this one should do as well with a 3S. So I've also bumped up the Super 8 to 0.8, and then everything else here is the same. So if we go into the receiver, yep, so the receiver doesn't power up. So this is one of those models that you have to plug the battery in order for the receiver to power up, which is a little bit of a pain. There you go. I've got the channel map set to TAER. I think it was set to AETR out of the box, so you can't just plug it in and go. And then if we come into the modes here, I have changed these. So I've got arming on a 2-position switch there, and then I've got acro here, and then I've got horizon here, and then angle here, and then I've got a lost model alarm, which is very handy. I've not realised how handy this is. Every model needs to have an alarm. I spent maybe half an hour trying to look for a model that didn't have a buzzer the other day, and you can go straight to it when you do have one. So LED strip, okay, so it just has the 2 LEDs there, and let's see what they're set to. So they just changed the arm state, so I don't think they are doing anything else actually. Let's see if they work as an aileron. No, don't think so. So just working as arming state, but if you do want to copy those settings, then you're going to want to go into the CLI. By the way, I didn't need to calibrate the ESCs, all that was fine out of the box. Go into the CLI there, and if I type in dump, you are going to want to copy the LED settings, which start from there. You can see LED, copy it from there and then down to about there, put it in a text document, save it, upgrade Betaflight, and then you paste it in there and then type save, and then that will transfer your LED settings. And of course you need to remember the board alignment and also the ports as well. Let's check out this version whilst I am here. So it's actually using a Pico BLX F3 fly controller, so you need to remember that if you want to reflash it with Betaflight as well. Now the next thing I'm going to do is just see if it will connect to BL Heli Suite, so make sure you disconnect from Betaflight before you do that. So it says COM12 up there, let's see if it connects. Press read set up there, and yep, so it's BL Heli S 16.5 there, and there we go, the motor direction is normal. So let's next go and do a line of sight flight with the ducts on. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with this one. It's already sounding very angry. There's high kV motors. Let's go for a punch. Wow, they absolutely scream. It's fighting against the wind here today. So I got this 3S battery on there. So I still don't think that it's got as much punch as that AR Fun model, but this one has the ducts on, remember. It's got the same props on as that model. Well, maybe it does. Hard to tell, because it's screaming its nuts off. Okay, let's try some acro. It's absolutely fine, other than having to fight into wind. Oh, wind nearly caught it then. Oh, it's flying alright. Just a noisy machine. I can hear dogs barking in the background. I think the tune's alright. We shall see when I do some FPV with it. So as I stated earlier, it definitely does lack a little bit of power with those prop protectors on. And also, can you see? Quite strange, but I'm getting quite a lot of jello through on the camera, which, as you'll see in a little bit, you do not get when the prop protector is removed. So I don't know if there's some kind of vibrations resonating there, or the fact that the props come really close to the prop protectors is causing some extra vibrations. But as you can see, the tune is really nice with these prop protectors on. And the flight time not too bad either, about 3 minutes 20, something like that. And it's usually pretty difficult to get a nice tune out of these models with prop protectors. Tend to find that they fall out of the maneuver, but not with this one at all. And there does seem to be a little bit of audio coming through as well. Now, I've cut it out of this because I never like audio coming through over analog signal. It tends to get a lot of breakup, and I find it distracting as I try to do some inverted yaw spins there. I need to get better at that. But yeah, one thing that does happen is grass gets caught in those prop protectors, and just my opinion, I would say just get rid of the prop protectors. I don't think they are going to protect the props that much. Indoors definitely, but if you're flying it outdoors, remove the prop protectors and you'll get more power. One of my favourite micros is the Flex RC Pico X, still to this day, and if you remove those prop protectors you get something similar to that. Not quite, because the carbon isn't quite as thick as the one on the Flex RC, but it's still a nice model as I do a pirouette around the bin there. So anyway, now let's take a look at a line of sight flight with the prop protectors off to see what the difference is. Okay, let's go for a takeoff with the prop protectors off. It already feels more zippy. Righto, let's go for a punch. Oh yeah, that's better. If you can afford it, just take the ducts off. Doesn't need them outside really, but if you insist on flying this one inside, then I would go for the prop protectors. But wow, what a difference with these prop protectors removed. It just disappears into the sky, and those motors scream. I think though it's actually a little bit quieter with the prop protectors off. I guess the sound sort of resonates in the prop protectors. So trying to keep it in close. It's a nice day here today, a little bit windy. It's strange doing line of sight acro with that hoop there. It's sort of quite disorientating. The wind's blowing it away. Ah, much better without those prop protectors. This is a lot of fun. It's a shame it doesn't have the on-screen display. I think that would have completed it. Wow. Okay, let's come in for a landing. So with the prop protectors removed, there is just so much more power and for some reason less vibrations. The only thing I will say is that the P gain is too high when the prop protectors are removed. So it just so happens, probably coincidence, that with the prop protectors installed, the stock Betaflight tune is near perfect. And I'm going to do one of these punch outs over the tree because that's something that I did with the Pico X and everyone was like, wow, look how much punch. And yeah, that is the same with this model. It is pretty much on par now, especially with that 3-cell battery, and I didn't experience any brownouts at all. One thing that is fantastic as well is the video quality and reception. So really crisp image, and because we have that cage going over the top of the cloverleaf antenna and the 200 milliwatt, just look at that power there, then the image is crystal clear. And I think this model may have won a lot more people if it had an on-screen display, because that's becoming a standard now. But one thing I will say is the Pico X that I built does not have an on-screen display, and it's still one of my favourite models. You can just see there as I'm coming out of these maneuvers as I'm trying to do a inverted yaw spin. Just on some of the corners I get a little bit of a wobble, and like I say, that is the P gain slightly too high. I think if I gave this the tune that I gave to the AR Fun, which had a P gain of about 40, I think, then I think this one would tune really well, especially with those 5-blade props. But just look how much airtime that I can get with this model, and no vibrations either, which is something that even outdoes the Pico X. So I'm not sure what that is, because we have bright sunlight here, and that is where Jello can be shown the most. But yep, soon as you remove this prop protector, that stops. My only concern is the thickness of the carbon on the frame. I do think if you had a bad crash, one of the arms would snap. So if you are getting this model, it might be worth you getting a spare frame so you don't have to wait 2 or 3 weeks if you crash it. But I have to say, I did crash this one quite a few times. I wanted to test out that antenna protector, and every time I crashed, the antenna survived without damage, so that is really good, and it doesn't seem to affect how the model flies. So I actually think this is a fantastic solution, and also a longer flight time with the ducts removed as well. So 27 grams, that's quite heavy. I think I managed to do a proper inverted yaw spin there. But yeah, 27 grams for a micro brushless, even though they are much more powerful than brush quadcopters. Still a lot of weight and a lot of performance, so just get rid of them. That's it. I mean, you know, that's the takeaway thing from this video, I would say. Other than that, it's a fantastic model. I really enjoyed flying it. I like the video quality, the reception, and also when the buzzer goes off, that is when it's time to land. So there you go. That is my review of the Realacc Orange 85. I'll put a link in the description if you wish to get one. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.